Kingsman: The Secret Service was released in 2014 and was directed by Matthew Vaughn and stars Taron Egerton, Colin Firth, and Samuel L. Jackson, and is based off of the graphic novel of the same name by Mark Millar, and follows the story of Eggsy, who is a juvenile delinquent who becomes involved with the Kingsman, a secret service organization for the British government, and so he is tasked with becoming one of these agents, all while the villain, played by Samuel L. Jackson, attempts to take over the world. Guys, I'm completely new to the Kingsman franchise, and after watching the first movie, I wish I had seen this movie back when it originally was released in 2014. I remember specifically when the trailers came out, it looked like a lot of fun, but not necessarily something that I was really interested in at the time. However, I sat down and watched it, and I absolutely loved this film. I loved its characters, its interesting world, the fight scenes and choreography, the action, the violence, and how funny it ended up being. Now, this movie is not necessarily a spoof on the spy genre. It is a funny film, but it is a dark and violent film as well, with some really raunchy type humor, and is just so much fun, and is kind of a riff on the James Bond formula. In fact, they reference James Bond many times throughout the course of this movie to kind of show us that, you know, this isn't usually what happens in these James Bond movies, but this is their version of it, and it's totally a lot of fun. But specifically, I love the characters, particularly Eggsy, played by Taron Egerton, which this is one of his earliest film roles that I know of. This is kind of when I knew who he was at the time, and he is so much fun. He plays a juvenile delinquent so incredibly well, but then eventually, as the movie goes along, he does become a little bit more sophisticated, especially being mentored by such great British talents such as Colin Firth and Mark Strong. And overall, he is a great character and really gets you into this world in a very fun way. And he's also a very witty character. The performance also is very witty. I love this character so much. But a character that I might like even more is Colin Firth. Colin Firth is absolutely amazing. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. I love him in The King's Speech, and I love him in this movie in particular, just how much fun he is clearly having. I looked up that he did a lot of his own stunt work in this film, and I think that is really cool. But he's just a very mild-mannered guy that, you know, at a turn of a dime, he will kick your ass. And it's really fun when he ends up doing just that. But I think my favorite character in this entire movie and favorite performance has to go to Samuel L. Jackson, who is just fantastic. Now, I've heard that people are really annoyed by his lisp in this movie, and I absolutely found it amazing. The lisp makes this character work, and apparently it was completely by accident. During the first take of his first scene, Samuel L. Jackson ended up lisping, and after that, they continued on with it throughout the entire film, and I think it made his character just a little bit more interesting than he was. I think it's a fun little quirk, because if this is riffing on James Bond movies, each James Bond villain kind of has something about them that is a little bit interesting or some little quirk, and this is Samuel L. Jackson's quirk. Also, I believe that if it had been a different actor doing the same thing, I feel like you would have to have a charismatic performer like Samuel L. Jackson to make it work, because this could easily become very annoying. But I think it works perfectly in this film. Now, I want to mention a little bit about the action scenes. I love how this film can get extremely violent, but it never relishes in it. In fact, it really isn't that violent there are just little spurts here and there. I noticed at the beginning of the film, they have this very violent act near the beginning that kind of shows you what you're in for. And then there is a string of events that isn't particularly violent or gross. And then there is that amazing action scene somewhere around the middle of the film, the church scene with Colin Firth, where it just goes to hell with the violence. It's bloody, it's grotesque, it's just a lot of fun too. And the music during these action scenes is well done. And I really enjoyed the music in these action scenes. I also enjoyed the fight scenes in particular, the way the camera moves. All the action is done center frame, so your eye is never away from the center of the frame. You are always looking directly at the action, and it's really cool how they deal with this kind of handheld quality while also making you able to see what's going on. There's a lot of problems I see in action films created after the whole Bourne era, where the action is very shaky and hard to see and very close up, but here the shots are tight and you can see what's going on, and also being in the center frame makes it work too. I also love the film's sense of humor. It is a very dark take on some humor. There's some very dark moments throughout that made me laugh so much. But I do love how the film could be a little bit juvenile as well. Kind of like Matthew Vaughn is just having fun playing with his action figures for a little bit. It really had that quality to it of like just somebody just having a blast doing what they're doing, and it was just so much fun. The only big criticism I have with the film is a small little nitpick near the end of the film where, so Samuel L. Jackson's character has kidnapped this world leader, and Taron Egerton, Eggsy, goes to her and has sex with her, like, really randomly and out of nowhere, and it just felt very odd and out of place for Eggsy's character and the ending overall of this movie. It was a really weird note to end on, but I was telling my friend who introduced me to this movie that it reminded me a lot of a scene from an early James Bond film with Roger Moore, I'm pretty sure, where they are in this, like, submarine or something or whatever, and Q sees their heat signatures beginning to grow and grow because they're having sex. And it reminded me a lot of that in particular. But other than that, I had a blast with this film. From the action to the characters to just the very interesting riff on the James Bond formula. It was just a blast. It was refreshing. And I definitely wish I had seen this movie back when it had originally come out, because I would have been watching this film quite a bit, I believe. So anyway, guys, with all that said, I'm going to give Kingsman: The Secret Service an 8 out of 10. Well, guys, I want to thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and stay positive.